Very good evening. Thank you very much for choosing GHOne TV. My name is Kweku Temeng. It's a delight joining you this evening with nothing than the best of stories making headlines throughout the country. It's just a pleasure having you. So tonight, before we fill you in with all the details, let's look at some of the top stories that are packed for you. In the next 60 minutes, government withdraws controversial road traffic regulation LI following the public's opposition to it. But more questions arise as video evidence showed a Speaker of Parliament presided over the proceedings a month ago when the LI was laid before the lawmaking house. Well, also coming up tonight, health analyst Dr. Thomas Anaba wants supervisors at the national medical stores to be held responsible for the disappearance of some drugs worth over 1 million cedis meant for the Eastern region. And tonight we'll talk about disabilities as inclusivity activists takes on Ghana's airlines for failing to create accessible planes for persons with disability.
Domestic flight, there are no ramps. Every physically challenged, no matter how difficult your situation is, you have to hop on that flight by pulling yourself, going the extra mile at your own cost.
And in business, Ghana Revenue Authority praises Methodist Church for incorporating tax education in Bible teachings. So tonight we have these and many other interesting stories making the 1 hour bulletin. Stay with us, be my guest as we bring you all these and many more, including sports and business. Choosing. Thank you very much for choosing GHOne TV. We have these and many other interesting stories making the 1 hour bulletin tonight. Well, let's start with the very first story tonight. And here, government has withdrawn the controversial LI seeking to allow MPs to use sirens and drive without observing speed limits. While the move follows a massive public uproar. Well, some majority members of parliament, including Asante Ashem North MP, Andy Apia Kubi, and Deputy Majority Chief Whip Habib Idrisu justified the LI, arguing it is necessary for the optimal performance of legislators.
Every right must be enjoyed responsibly, and therefore they have placed the right on the member of parliament or on the minister or on the police personnel. So in a situation where that person who has the right to enjoy that right is not there, it makes it offensive for you to enjoy the right that is not meant for you. And therefore, if the judge's car is going and there's no judge sitting in, I mean, you don't have that immunity, then the police can deal with you. In a situation where it's my mother that sits in the car and not the member of parliament, yes, then you don't have the right to enjoy in the first place. So we can check the abuses by implementing the law, targeting the rightful persons to enjoy the right. So yes, in all situations where there is a possibility of people trying to abuse the situation. And it's not only in this law. In many situations, people try to abuse. But abuse of the law is also unlawful, and therefore you'll be subject to the law.
All right, so allow me to stay on this subject some more because the minority, led by its leader, Dr. Kezia Lataforsi, demanded a withdrawal of the controversial LI following a resistance from the public. Well, a statement issued by the minority said its members on the Subsidiary Legislation Committee have been directed to vote against the LI if it is brought before them. On your All right, so we would want to get more on this particular development because the Speaker of Parliament, who addressed a gathering at the University of Ghana on Tuesday, also disclosed he had no knowledge of the bill.
I heard on news that there's a bill in Parliament trying to give members of Parliament some, what do you call it? Sirens, and also no speed limit. I mean, this social media thing, there's nothing like that before Parliament. There's nothing like that before Parliament. And so I thought maybe something was being done behind my this. And so I started calling all over, and all my directors said no, they have not seen anything like that. I have the responsibility of admitting many of these things. Sometimes they may elude me, but I haven't seen any such bill. Then later on, I was told it was a regulation that Parliament was amending. We don't amend regulations. We don't have the power by the Constitution to amend regulations or instruments. We don't have. So to start with, I just told the people that no, that one there can't be true. Because Parliament cannot amend. We have delegated, the Constitution, in fact, has delegated that power to other bodies, not to Parliament. And so when they bring an instrument, either in the nature of an LI, that's legislative, or CI, constitutional, if out of 100 provisions, we disagree with one, we are not even allowed to amend that one. We either have to throw out all the 100 or we allow it to pass. And they made sure that it is impossible for us to throw it out by insisting that you must have 2/3 majority.
All right, so interesting development there as the Speaker directly mentions this thing called social media, deny all knowledge. But some interesting things have happened since this controversy erupted. My colleague Adam Kojo with the research desk is here to break it down more for me. Adam, thank you very much for your time. So you had the Speaker in there, I don't know which one probably is right, but you have been researching on it. So just give me your first shots on this particular development.
So, Kweku, indeed, 14th June 2024 was when the bill was laid. The Speaker, the LI, so this is a legislative instrument. The Speaker says he's not aware of it, no one is aware of it. But what we know is that on the 14th of June, in fact, when you go for the order paper, item number 9 on the order paper that day was the laying of an instrument, and that instrument was known as the Road Regulations Instrument. So that roads legislative instrument amended was actually laid on that day, first of all. So the Speaker...
Adam, I want to find out, did it contain issues surrounding the sirens and MPs having, access, because legislators, because of their role and duties? Did it contain it?
So for the LI that is in the public, that is the same LI that, from where we stand, was laid that day.
That means it was contained in it.
So that is why we want to now understand and maybe hear from the Speaker. But some interesting things happened that day, and so we decided to go to the sitting that day to see, because you can see that even the minority themselves have come out to say they would go against it and all that. So we went to the 14th of June and decided to peruse proceedings that day. The Speaker mentioned that line item as item number 9. Then the chairman for the Subsidiary and Legislative Committee of Parliament, that's Dr. Dominic Ayine, came up and brought up or made a challenge that there were aspects in that bill that he or the committee were not satisfied with. They were not stated outright. But interestingly, after Dominic Ayine said this, the majority whip, that is the MP for Nsawam Edreji, Honorable Frank Anodompre, had this to say, where basically he was even suggesting that the laying of the instrument should be moved to some other time.
The
the respected subsidiary legislation chair I know they are going to engage. Himself and the deputy minister will engage. But in the meantime, shall we then move on to other paper addendum? Speaker, with your leave, we'll then move on to other paper addendum and take item A.
All right, so Adam, that is another prayer in there that we watched a short while ago. Can you share with us? So after he said this, what was the response
after he said this
from the speaker?
Now, speaker came in and said, and speaker gave a very logical explanation that in times past they've had similar bills coming, and at the end of the day, the bills still come back, or the instruments still come back to Parliament while those issues have not been trashed out. So speaker basically suggested that they can go ahead and then lay the instruments. And then if indeed they have agreed, or they agree in the background that those items ought to be changed or otherwise, they can show proof of that by using the constitutional instrument of voting 2/3 in Parliament to change that. So speaker says, well, you have this, but let us just lay the bill. I think we can listen to the speaker.
Honorable Majority Chief Whip, you are right legally that the business is not before the House, and therefore encouraging the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee to engage with the minister, you are right. But the experience has shown, and experience is the best teacher, that we have done some before and took it for granted that those consultations have yielded the desired results, and have reported on some instruments earlier on, and later on discovered that the concerns were not captured. That is where I want to emphasize that the committee led by the chairman in engaging the minister should make sure that there is some consensus on those issues, and those are well captured.
So Kweku, yes, so that's the speaker's response to the call by Anodon Prayer that it should be moved. Then something else happens. Governs Kwame Abuja, who happens to be the minority chief whip, also stands up, and he makes a very interesting comment that in times past they've seen such bills happen, and then when there's an uproar in the public, everybody is running away from it. So he was cautioning Parliament to tread cautiously in laying the bill when this has not been made. But interestingly, when he was saying that, something else happened. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Speaker, yes, you are very right. Normally, these things are referred to the Subsidiary Legislation Committee. But as you rightly said, by practice, we've noticed that sometimes when things, this is a road traffic amendment regulation, it may not directly be a road and transport issue. So normally what you used to do is that you refer it rightly to the committee and encourage the committee to get at least the leadership of the Road and Transport Committee involved. Maybe this should become a template so that we are all on the same page. I'm just told by the chairman of the committee that the concerns they raised have been addressed, so we can lay. We just hope that it doesn't become another controversy that, oh, we've laid it and public says who did it, we don't know about it. So, Mr. Speaker, once the chairman has confirmed that it's been addressed, we have no objection to it, we can lay it.
So that was Kwame Abuja. It looks like he was prophetic.
He was very emphatic that, look, one day when this blows back, we don't want people. But what is happening now?
Yes, so we've not even ended. So he said this, and then Dominic Ayine comes back and says on record that as the chairman of the Subsidiary and Legislative Committee of Parliament, he's actually satisfied and the bill can be laid. Let's listen.
Usually the procedure is that when the changes have been suggested by the committee and they are effected by the drafting division of the Attorney General's Department, then the minister writes to the committee, notifying the committee of the changes that have been made, and to the instrument, and that the instrument has been finalized for laying, and then we vet it. The leadership of the committee will vet it before we approve it for laying. Honorable Minister defaulted in writing back to us. And that is how come that I wasn't aware that it has been infected. But he and his staff, they have shown me the provisions that we asked should be inserted. So, Mr. Speaker, it can be late.
That is the chairman of the committee, and basically he says, okay, we have all issues trashed out. Then the speaker just had one more request, or one more thing to do, officially lay the bill. So let's listen to the road traffic regulations instrument amended when it was laid in Parliament on the 14th of June, 2024.
Can you present the instrument? Table office, kindly do the writing. Let the bell be rung for 10 minutes.
Road Traffic Amendment Regulations 2024.
Honorable members, the Road Traffic Amendment Regulation 2024 is accordingly laid and referred to the Subsidiary Legislation Committee for consideration and report to the House. The Committee on Transport could support the Committee of Subsidiary Legislation with whatever material they have in order to enrich the report that will be submitted to the House.
Okay, so it's clear. The bill was laid.
This is a detailed conversation.
Yes.
Captured. So what? Could it be that the speaker forgot or something?
It will be very interesting for us to know, because it was late. The minorities representative on the committee, the leader, basically said, okay, we had issues, but have been written to, the issues are fine. So it was late. And interestingly, as Gavin's Kwame Abuja prophesied, just 3 weeks after people started to see the content of the legislative instrument, and there was a public uproar, it looks like everybody wants to say it wasn't.
The NDC is out with, the minority is out with a statement already saying, well, it's distancing itself.
Yes.
Well, we would want to get more answers. Adam Kojo, thank you very much for breaking this down for us. Well, later on our social media platforms, we would want to juxtapose the audios and visuals for you to get a clearer understanding. But for now, Dr. Rashid Darman is the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASERPA, and he has joined us for a conversation on this. Dr. Darman, thank you very much for your time. Let me find out from you, first of all, what do you make of the now withdrawn road traffic regulations, that's the LI? Was it necessary in the first place?
What was necessary in the first place was that we didn't need this LI. I think a few years ago, we had communication from the presidency. Hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you very loud and clear. So, yes, you were answering. What was necessary was what?
What was necessary was rather trying to sanitize the madness on our road, because currently we have everybody who has a big vehicle driving at top speed with the hazard blinking and sometimes with sirens. A few years ago, we heard the presidency saying that they were going to curb this menace and make sure that only a limited number of office holders in this country, Speaker of Parliament, Vice President, President, and so on, are the ones who can use sirens on our roads. I would have thought that that should be maybe what this LI should be doing. Rather, we saw the opposite. At a time when our country is reeling, we have so many problems. You and I face that challenge on the road. There's a lot of road accidents, carnage on our roads. Our leaders should be thinking about, how do we stop this? How do we create maybe the necessary environment so that the public transport can thrive, so that all of us can rely on public transport and reduce the congestion on our roads? How do we create alternative routes? They don't have the balls to make sure that, people who have built on, spaces where public roads have to be created, expanded. They don't have the guts to do that. Rather, they are taking the path of least resistance so that they can extricate themselves from this challenge that we are all confronted with. So I think it's not well thought of. And also, at a time when you take your cameras, yesterday your cameras were in Parliament, and you told us that there were only 24 members. So if people don't even show up for work, where are they going, and why should they be granted this privilege? I think that's the question that most Ghanaians are asking.
Dr. Draman, share with us. Now, the speaker claims at a forum this morning that he was not aware of the LI. But videos available, and I've played a few of them, shows that he presided over the proceedings on the day it was laid. Do you think the speaker was running away from the heat instead of facing the public?
I am not too sure. Maybe he might have forgotten that he presided. I mean, he presides over many things. So on this one, I think I would like to perhaps forgive the speaker that maybe he forgot that he presided, or maybe he did, but he didn't know the details, because sometimes as a presiding officer, he doesn't get involved in the kind of detailed nitty-gritty of most of these instruments. They are referred to committees, and perhaps that's what he did. Maybe social media played a role by bringing out what that instrument was seeking to do, and perhaps it caught his attention, and he felt that, perhaps he was not properly informed. But that raises a very serious question about, the processes and how these things should be done, so that people like the Speaker of Parliament, even if he's not involved in the nitty-gritty, at least any document that comes before him, before the House, if he's presiding, at least he should have a clear sense of the most important details of that document. And
Dr.
I think
Draman,
on this occasion,
because I am concerned here. When you listen to, how his narration was this morning, this thing called social media, going back, so he started making calls, trying to find out, and there was nothing, and he even had feedback. As if there's that detailed conversation at back office to find out really if there's any such thing before the House, and the answer was negative. So I'm wondering, the public perception even from this time, are you not concerned?
Yes, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned. And I think Parliament has to be careful. Our leaders have to be careful, especially on the back of what is happening. We saw what happened in Kenya 10 years after a similar thing happened in Burkina, where the parliament was bent. We see what is happening in Europe, the rise of right-wing kind of politics, because people are dissatisfied with the status quo. I would have thought that these recent lessons would have guided our leaders. So they should be guided by that, and they have to be careful not to incur the wrath of the citizenry.
Dr. Draman, thank you very much for your time this evening, speaking to us on issues surrounding the LI on road. Well, we're grateful for your time. That will do for Inside tonight, but just a gentle reminder that Inside was proudly brought to you by Pepsodent. Indeed, with Pepsodent, every smile matters. Just joining in this S News tonight, my name is Kweku. We still have some more local stories for you, so let me share a few more with you. And here, an inclusion activist, Jennifer Mensah Bonzi, is demanding that authorities create more accessible spaces to accommodate persons with physical challenges. Well, the founder of GHOne Mobility Foundation finds it unthinkable the inhumane treatment persons with disability are subjected to in Ghana's local airports. Well, she is worried several persons with disability will continue to face exclusion in their social lives and economic pursuits if the narrative remains same. Well, the American-based Ghanaian activist spoke to GHOne News on her outreach in Kumasi.
Jennifer Mensah Bonzi, a United States-based Ghanaian, goes across states, schools and religious gatherings, championing rights of persons with disability, promoting diversity and inclusion. At the age of 3, She was diagnosed with polio and referred to the Orthopedic Training Center in Nsawam to learn to walk with mobility aids. Unable to afford the aids, she recounts how her life hit the turning point when some advocates from the Netherlands and the United States of America came to her aid.
I was diagnosed at the age of 3 with polio, and for many years I thought I could not do anything to contribute to society, but an advocate, not a Ghanaian, but 2, one from the Netherlands, one from Louisiana in America, were there for me.
On her return to Ghana, more than 2 decades after relocating to the state in 1996, she is baffled. The Ghanaian society and built environment remains largely unfriendly to persons like her.
We are lacking that here. I can't expect Ghana to rise from 1 to 100 because United States is a developed country. But we can start somewhere. At least the acceptance and acknowledgement, we can start there. And also knowing that when we are all inclusive, we all win.
Her foundation, Vigilo Mobility Foundation, has embarked on a 4-city tour, making stops at the Nsawam Orthopedic Training Center, Nima, Kumasi and Tamale. Apart from Ghana's disability-friendly roads, a harrowing experience that gets her disturbed is the domestic air travel, which has no provision for persons with disability, despite all the provisions in the Persons with Disability Act 715.
Come to domestic flight, there are no ramps. Every physically challenged, no matter how difficult your situation is, you have to hop on that flight by pulling yourself, going the extra mile at your own cost, because if you get hurt down there, nobody is going to pay that for you.
Members on her team who joined her to Ghana have had it tough processing the difficulties persons with disabilities face in Ghana.
It was a challenge to get on the roads, to get from one place to the next. It was bumpy, it was rough. We were all in the van, you know, like a roller. My son, when I sent the video home, he was like, "Are you on a roller coaster ride?" I said, "No, I'm just going to the grocery store." Accessibility, I mean, some spaces they do have ramps, but for the most part, no.
The airport is beautiful. The staff brought them through to baggage claim, but they left them there. They did not take them to the curbside, so they had to walk down a long ramp that had maybe like 3 walkways, and there was no seats outside of the airport. It broke my heart.
Through Vigilo, selected persons with physical disabilities will receive these mobility aids for free. Ashanti Regional Chairman of the Ghana Society for the Physically Disabled, Stephen Jan, is positive the donation will especially empower members of the fold who cannot afford these devices.
These items are very expensive in the market. With the elbow crutches, you get some at 280 cedis in the market. Yes. Even with the used one they bring is about 150 or 160. And so you find that many of them are even using very old ones, others are even broken. And so with this, it would help a lot.
Apart from the donation of items worth some $20,000 to the Orthopedic Training Center and the free distribution of the mobility aids, Jennifer Bonzi is also investing in a project to build an accessible resource center to educate and train persons with disability.
Well, being born with disability is a complex undertaking that requires the collective efforts of society. Well, while the challenges are great, the rewards are even greater. Well, disability represents enormous opportunities and potentials that we all stand to gain from, which can only be realized by moving barriers and fundamentally changing the way we perceive disabilities. Well, in this feature, my colleague Rosemond Akoko-Ajete tells a story of Valerie, a 22-year-old determined to succeed despite her challenges with cerebral palsy.
Valerie, a 22-year-old final year psychology student at the University of Ghana, is a living example of how disability is not inability. Valerie's dream is to become a lawyer and a guidance and counseling specialist, especially for persons like her.
I am quite talkative. Ultimately, I wish to become a lawyer. But before that, I wish to do criminal psychology. I find it fascinating, and also I want to help people, so I want to also become a guidance counselor one day.
Her condition was discovered when she was in junior high school. Doctors at the time assured her parents that she was fine, but they later discovered significant delays in her development.
Almost 2 years, then she turned and she started doing some things. So they told us that she will walk. Because all the assessment, it was positive. Like she will walk. So, but we were not patient. I wasn't patient. I should say, I wasn't patient because all her mates were walking and talking. It delayed.
For me, I closed my eyes because this is a miracle. Like she just got up and walked. A very intelligent girl she was. And she's still very intelligent. She will do most of her work by memory until JHS. Then we realized that she has to write BC. So we went to Ghana Education Service Assessment Center at Achimota. So she was assessed. It was there that the psychologists and the team of medical experts concluded that she had cerebral palsy. But hers is not severe, but it's mild. We got involved so much because we're not interested in the mechanical output from school. We're interested in the mental development. So we're like, fine. So if that's the case, why do we have to worry our head and disturb her?
Her disability has created a feeling of being marginalized by her peers and society.
I am free, I am fine, I am very confident. But with some other people, I feel a little bit like I have to hold back some things, and I shouldn't say certain things. I shouldn't really think around them because sometimes what they say might not be really what they want to say and those kind of things. So when I'm with some people, I don't really like to think too much because it will just give you a headache.
Despite being disheartened, not growing as her peers, she remains inspired and motivated.
Sometimes the actions of some people, they don't know that it's very hurting. So sometimes I feel sad, sometimes too. It's just a part of a woman, hormones and stuff. So generally, people trigger certain things unknowingly through them. I don't know if some of them know and they just pretend not to know, but unknowingly, most of the time, some people trigger certain things for me. So there's this thing I keep saying to myself, happy yourself, because no one can happy you, right? So I started that motto. I would just get some drink, like cook some food, sit on the floor, eat and enjoy myself with some good music and dance around, sing around, so that at least the stress of other people wouldn't get to me like that.
Valerie dreams of having an NGO to inspire children who have cerebral palsy and their parents, as it is not an easy journey.
The Ability Community International is a vision I have to help ladies with cerebral palsy like myself. Some of them are worse than me. Most of them are worse than me. Mine is the best case scenario of cerebral palsy. And so I want to be able to help them. I also want to be able to help parents with cerebral palsy or parents of children with cerebral palsy, because the trauma of having to have a child with cerebral palsy is real.
Her roommates and colleagues who also face challenges told GHOne News that they draw inspiration from Valerie. According to them, they admire her confidence, something they lack
She laughs even though she is in that situation. She doesn't care about other people we say about her because people talk about me like bring me down. And I feel myself to be non-part of those people. So since she is happy, why don't I also become like her? Yeah.
She's really outspoken. Like she had the confidence to maybe she can just stand in front of I'm actually afraid of crowds, so she can just stand in front of crowd and then speak. Like she actually gives spoken words at church, and then she's not even like concerned that she's having a deformity, so she should hide. But she's confident. Like she's very bold, and she actually marvels me a lot because most of her colleagues hide, but she...
The head of the research unit at the Center for Disability Studies and Advocacy, Irene Owusu-Ateido, says despite Valerie's challenges, her confidence enables her to venture into places that her colleagues cannot.
Disability is not inability, and that is what Valerie is living. So she does not allow her disability to limit her in any way. Academics, she's doing well. Socially, she's doing well. You know, some of our students are, for the fear of stigmatization, some of them don't have the self-confidence to be able to walk with their chest out and do things as is expected of them. I think Valerie should be able to read law, if that is where her ambitions, because we have deaf people who have read law, and Juventus currently is at Mokola. He finished here and is there. He is totally deaf, relying on sign language. So we go to lecture with him, write notes for him, and then there's an interpreter who interprets. So if he has been able to do it, why not Valerie? Because she can speak and she can read, and her intelligence is okay. So I think she can. If only she is determined to do it, she can. And this office will give her the necessary support.
Valerie's journey with cerebral palsy is a testament that persons with disabilities can lead productive and fulfilling lives. Reporting for GHOne and Star News, Rosemond Akwoko Ajiti.
Well, tonight, if you're around Valerie, just cheer her on. That go, Valerie, go. Definitely, we can't wait for you to become that lawyer that you desire so much. If you're just coming through, this is News Tonight. I'll bring you some more stories. And here, the former medical director of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Dr. Thomas Anaba, says supervisors at the national medical stores must be blamed for the non-delivery of some drugs worth some 1.34 million cedis. Well, the Auditor General is pursuing a driver who failed to deliver about 3 million pieces of male condoms and other contraceptives valued at some 1.34 million Ghana cedis to the regional medical stores, that's the RMS, in the eastern region. Well, according to graphic.com, the driver, GHOne, was tasked to deliver the contraceptives, including some 120,000 vials of Depo-Provera, which is a birth control shot, to the regional medical stores.
We must look into this. What did they want to use the condoms for? The condoms are meant to protect people to have healthy sexual lifestyle. This is a government that has refused to sign a bill that will prevent homosexuality in Ghana. And they are not keen in even making sure that condoms to prevent disease spread through homosexuals is being distributed adequately to prevent it. I see it to be a shock to me that the whole health sector can allow 3 million condoms to get missing and nothing is happening to the person. So I applaud the Auditor General for instructing that the Chief Director and the officers involved at the stores should be held accountable, because the driver should have returned to report to them that he had delivered the goods, and they're also seeing the signatures of the recipient on the duplicate to really attesting that the goods have been delivered. If they have not done their checks and to verify that the man has really delivered the goods, then it behoves on them to be held responsible for engaging a deliverer, a courier service, or a gentleman who is not credible in delivering health goods.
Well, if you're just joining in, we're all set to bring you the latest happenings from our world of business. Ketsi, Bill's Microcredit. Well, tonight, Bill's Microcredit is saying that if you need any loans, you just need your ID card, which would guarantee you that loan with ease. Just give them a call, and they would be waiting to attend to all your loan needs. Let's quickly look at some business stories. And here, the Ghana Revenue Authority, I'm talking about the GRA, has commended the Methodist Church of Ghana for incorporating tax payment as a biblical responsibility as part of its weekly Bible lessons. Well, the board and management of the GRA during a courtesy call on the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church, the Most Reverend Paul Kwabna Boafo, at the Wesley Towers in Accra, praised religious leaders for encouraging their congregation to view paying taxes as a moral duty, aligning with scriptural teachings.
This initiative aims to enhance tax compliance and promote a sense of civic responsibility among citizens. The government expressed hope that this partnership with religious institutions will lead to increased revenue collection, which is crucial for national development. Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Julie Siam, in her address said the introduction of the weekly Bible lessons, an initiative by the Methodist Church in educating members about tax-related matters, has been an outstanding success.
This is more than a bold step, sir. And as I mentioned, very, very historic, in the sense that tax payment is a biblical duty and specifies and embodies a spiritual responsibility that transcends beyond generations. As we move forward, at the Ghana Revenue Authority, our vision is to leverage this pioneering partnership as an operating model across all faith organizations.
Board chair of the GRA, who doubles as MP for Esikado Kitan Joe Gatti, bemoaned the attitude of citizens on tax compliance and underscored the significance of public education in changing the narrative.
The figures did not look good. March, January, February, March, the figures did not look good. And we had a target to meet. We had a target to meet not just because the IMF said we should meet the target, but we as Ghanaians too must realize that we cannot develop on the basis of loans and grants. That we have to raise our revenue. We have to be able to pay taxes so we can demand accountability for our government.
Meanwhile, presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Most Reverend Paul Kwabna Boafo, said citizens must see tax payment beyond civic responsibility, indicating that tithe and tax must go together.
We believe that this will go a long way because our people believe that what comes from the pulpit, what comes from the church, the teaching from the church is what God requires of them. And as they grow into Christian maturity, payment of taxes is also part of the growth that will come into the individual's life.
The visit by the board and management of the GRA also forms part of efforts to strengthen partnership with religious organizations to enhance voluntary tax compliance and domestic revenue mobilization for national development.
In other business stories tonight, a 28-member delegation of experts and business leaders led by the Minister for Trade and Industry, Culture, Community and Youth, Alvin Tan, is visiting Ghana to explore mutual opportunities in the carbon market. Well, the three-day visit follows the signing of the implementation agreement by Ghana's Minister of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation and Singapore's Minister for Sustainability and Environment in May this year.
The cooperation between Ghana and Singapore dates back to the post-independent era, forming the foundation for a continuous engagement. This relationship aims to achieve a sustainable and resilient future. The visiting delegation signifies the hard work and dedication of both governments towards the common goal of contributing to the 1.5 degrees Celsius targets.
Cutting global emissions is crucial for survival and create an avenue for achieving our sustainable development priorities. Carbon market works, and I implore all stakeholders to work together to make the implementation agreement work.
Preliminary discussions began at COP26 in Glasgow, and since then, both nations have engaged in negotiations on an implementation agreement under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. In 2022, Singapore announced an increase in its carbon tax to $25 per ton up to 2025, escalating to $50 to $80 per ton by 2030. Starting in 2024, companies in Singapore can use high-quality carbon credits to offset up to 5% of their taxable emissions, promoting cooperation with Ghana to facilitate this.
This particular implementation agreement is legally binding. It's a bilateral framework that is legally binding that allows us to cooperate to achieve our climate targets through the transfer of high-integrity Article 6 compliant carbon credits. And this is a concrete demonstration of how Singapore and Ghana can work together to advance our global climate action.
An advanced team from Singapore, together with Enterprise Singapore, visited Ghana between June 10 and June 12 for preparatory discussions with the EPA, sector players, and project developers.
So important because if you have local communities trying to protect the environment, they need resources. And if through the carbon market process, it can unlock investment to support local communities to be able to protect the environment.
The mission from Singapore, comprising state and non-state institutions, demonstrates a shared commitment and gives Ghana the confidence to successfully implement the agreement.
That's about all we have for business tonight. We're grateful to Bill's Microcredit for making it possible for us to bring you business. When we come back, we're bringing you more from our world of sports. Elegant, beautiful, and she has sports. Good evening, Monica.
Hello, good evening, Kweku. Kweku, tonight we go deep into Ghana, Team Ghana's athletics team who are preparing for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. I've got details from Bawa Fuseni and Graham in a short while. Do stay. Now, President of Ghana Athletics, Bawa Fuseni, has indicated his outfit is not in the position to determine bonuses that should be paid athletes who will participate in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Speaking on the game here on GHOne TV and Star FM, Bawa Fuseni emphasized it is the sole responsibility of the Ghana Olympic Committee and the Ministry for Youth and Sports to decide on the amount to be paid the athletes as bonuses and per diems.
I have not had any discussion either with the ministry or with the GHOne in terms of bonuses.
Okay.
And it is just outside my remit.
Okay. It's not within your power?
No, it's not within my power to determine bonuses for Olympic Games.
Okay.
It is solely the responsibility or the authority on the GHOne recommending the figures and the amount to the ministry.
Okay.
And the ministry would then approve.
Okay.
And if athlete wins, the ministry that will pay.
Yeah.
So it is not within the athletic association to determine the bonuses. So it is just outside our authority.
Sure. Okay.
They asked me about per diems. And what I told them was that the per diem issue, we discussed the per diem issues with the CDM.
Okay.
And he guaranteed
chief the mission or head of mission.
Head of mission of the Olympic Games.
Okay.
Chief mission. Then he promised that the ministry, they've already agreed on the per diem right from the pre-game campaign to the Olympic game itself. These are two different budgets.
Yeah.
The pre-game budget is different from the Olympic game budget. And he confirmed that they have already finished the per diem and everything allowances with the athlete officials right from the pre-games to the Olympic Games.
Okay.
That's what I said. Okay. But the story, I have grown legs and I've grown tails.
Now to some exciting news in Spain, where Kylian Mbappe has been unveiled in front of over 80,000 Real Madrid fans at the Santiago Bernabeu earlier today in Spain. The France forward, 25, signed a 5-year deal at the club in July after his expiry of his Paris Saint-Germain contract. Speaking to a crowd of spectators at the Bernabeu, Mbappe told supporters he had dreamt of the moment he could call himself a Real Madrid player.
Veo ahora a toda mi familia, están felices, veo a mi mamá que está llorando, veo toda mi familia. Es un día increíble para mí, increíble. Desde que soy un niño tenía únicamente un sueño, fue de jugar aquí, y de ahora estar aquí significa mucho para mí. Por eso quiero decir gracias también a todos los madridistas, porque desde muchos años me dan mucho cariño, mucho amor. Eso se va directamente en mi corazón. Por eso quiero decir gracias a todo el mundo de estar aquí hoy.
And all I can say is gracias to Mbappe, my player in Real Madrid. That will be it on the sports brief. My name is Monica Bukari. Back to you, Kweku.
Monica, gracias. And on behalf of the entire production team, for you who watched us at home, gracias. Good night. And ensure you bring the family together and brush with Pepsodent. Enjoy the rest of your evening. My name is Kweku Temeng.